All right, everybody, welcome in 5 minutes with Sean, maybe 10. I guarantee you it will be more than 10 today. We are going to finish up the story of Jim True, the former Ford dealer. And now you get to hear how someone becomes a former Ford dealer. And it wasn't, look, my perspective is it wasn't by choice and could have been maybe pre-planned by someone much bigger than the people on this call today. We are going to be switching out of the video format, though. We are having some internet issues, so I want you guys to have the crisp audio of hearing Jim's story. So we're going to switch off video cameras here, and we're going to move into the audio-only format of the show. You'll see the CarBiz logo, which you see all the time anyways when you see the show. All right, Jim, so you are recapping whoever missed week one. Jim grows up. He's a young man growing up with very little in his life. Someone decides to take him in the area, make him into a professional kid working hard. He goes out, he experiences life, comes back, gets into the car business hardcore, full time. New cars is what he's getting into. And after he goes into what we both describe as some of the worst time of your life in finance, he's doing that so he can have the road to the dealer. Jim, how do you tell us the story of how you become a Ford dealer, man?
Well, it really it wasn't by accident, that's for damn sure. I had to beg, borrow, and steal, and I don't want to use that word too loosely, but
all right, so you become the story of how you become a dealer starts with what?
Almost a militant kind of lifestyle, as management, new cars, working 2 full-time jobs. Seriously. Even when I worked in the dealership, weekends and nights or whatever, I did whatever I had to do, to the point that I would say my most average day for 20 years was 14 hours a day, 7 days a week. As a sales manager prior to this dealership, it was a Ford store. This owner hired me early 2000s with one goal. He wanted to be in the top 50 in either the Indianapolis or Cincinnati region or the Midwest, whatever it was. And he was quite a ways from it. He spent a whole day at my house. And by the way, I never took a job that wasn't directly from the dealer himself, ever. So I made the promise. He hired me. And when he hired me, this guy, he honestly, in the beginning, he was afraid he couldn't get rid of me, because I would set off his Sonatrol early Sunday mornings, because I'd get this great idea and I'd have to go to the store and do all this stuff, write it all down and do the shit. Well, I was only 15 minutes from the steering gear plant where I'd grown up and been in and out of all my life. So I had this huge base of about 2,500 people to draw from. I worked for this guy, and he still, he's a dealer right now that is, the last time I talked to him was a year ago. He's like, you know what? He said, I still owe you. And he doesn't owe me a thing, by the way. He's a great guy. He said, I will vouch for you. And get this, he has since sold his store since mine went out. Him and another 50-year dealer, my closest competitor, a good competitor, they both had told me after I went out, if it happened, if they could put me out of business, they had to be next. They both sold. And this guy is more than willing to stand up, straight back, and just put it on the line. anyway, it was a great experience. And the couple years I was with him, I won him a dealer discovery trip. So once again, he comes to me with the flyer that year. And he said, you know what? He said, you never take a day off. You never do this. You never do that and all this stuff. He said, here you go, bud. Sit down and pick out your destination. So I went to Paris. Well, in my mind, that was kind of like a forced vacation that, I was excited to go, but I didn't want to leave the dealership. I'm thinking I want to buy my own and I'm so close and all this stuff. I didn't want to leave. Anyway, I go to Paris, and the one person that I'd met in Paris, I was standing in line to go to the bathroom. I don't even remember. It doesn't matter, but it was a big formal dinner, and a guy walks past me and he goes, I know you. I looked at him and said, yeah, I know you too. It was Dave Mondragon. And you may not know Dave, but I only knew him briefly. He was, at that time, he's a very young man. Dave was the zone rep for my brother in 1999 or so in a small town in nowhere, Indiana, when he bought his dealership, his buy-sell agreement. The only way my brother could buy one is if he hired me as part of his management. So that's how I met Dave. And then I'm in Paris, and he's like, how in the hell are you here? It's like, well, I'm not a dealer, but the dealer sent me, and I really want to go back to work if you want the truth. So a lot of fun. And I think in 04, we were doing the Million F Series Challenge, what played a huge part in that. And the Focus at that time really wasn't the greatest car in the world, or so they said. That was when the Escort went out and they had their mileage and their fine and all that stuff. But it was a great time to be a Ford dealer. That was when Alan Mullally was there, and they had a lot of great product. And it was you could still feel the Ford family and their involvement. It was a special time for me.
It's incredible. It's incredible because you and I talked earlier, and you don't believe in coincidence, and
Nope.
I don't believe either. I believe life is life, and I believe you put yourself in positions and things happen. So you have this chance to buy this dealership. You are this guy. What starts to go through your head when things are getting really close? How do you decide your location? Like what goes into that part for you?
This is a story that's going to kill you. 2006, it was once again time for family vacation, and I had bought a lake property about an hour from my house. Had it 7-8 years, and we were coming down to the lake to spend a week. And I had a street rod, I had a Harley, and all this shit. And I drag all this shit down here, and I'm ready to spend a whole week at my lake house. Well, about 3 hours into that trip, I was bored. So I'm out the next morning, and this is all the truth. Trust me, you can't make this shit up. I come to a little town on the other side of the lake that I rarely went to, and I go to the gas station where there's a bunch of guys standing around drinking coffee and shooting the shit. And I had a brand new 06 GT convertible Mustang. I'm talking to one of those guys. He's out there slobbering tobacco on it. We're drinking coffee, and there's a Ford dealership right next door to this gas station. He spits on the ground like, yep. He said, they got one of them hopped up Mustangs over next door. I'm like, really? Well, I knew it was a GT500, but I hadn't seen one or touched it in person. This is my dealership buying experience. I went to the dealership looking at the car, talked to a salesperson. Somebody I deal or traded with often. and we're just hitting it off like we're just long lost friends. That was the fucking dealership I bought.
Wait, like not while you were there, right? It's not like you just popped in and bought this thing on that visit, but you knew in that moment that was going to be the one, or what?
While I was there looking at the car, I was well known enough in this area that the salesperson introduced me to the owner, Wayne Bauer. Great guy, great guy. Just he wasn't a car guy though. I love this guy to death, but I've never seen anybody in my life walk around and bump into a fucking wall for 20 years and make money in a little store. But he did and didn't have a clue how. That day, he planted the seed in my head. He goes, man, he said, you're doing a great job up there at Inskeep. And, I've known Jeff because they all knew each other. And I've always been part of the scene and could have wrote my own ticket. And I got to meet everybody there was or be in the same room with them, I guess. But I've always been under the radar. I don't like all that stuff. So I wasn't that well known. But he knew of me. And he said, I've heard a lot of good things about you. And he goes, you ever thought about owning your own dealership? And I said, why? And he said, because mine's for sale. I'm like, really? So I started throwing like 10 grand at it and going home and getting a calculator out and doing all the due diligence. And, hell, I think I sold everything but a kidney, to come up with all their money because I didn't have anybody in my pocket. I didn't have anybody that was just going to rush to me and dole out money. It just wasn't going to happen. So I had to come up with their required money, and which I did. And my thought is even after that, I still wanted to have room to grow. So yeah, the dealership I bought was that day, really, Sean. It was that quick. It was amazing.
That's awesome. So this was what, like 07 you get your point, or 06?
I actually got started on it. I think it would have been in 06. But when I gave my dealer my intentions, we talked because we had a serious talk at that point. He never offered it to me, but I'd never told him I was that serious about buying a dealership. But everybody kind of knew that I would eventually because I was just so determined. He offered me half of his point. And, in hindsight, would I, should I, could I, whatever, that wasn't going to be my point. And I knew that the one that I was looking at was going to be a good thing for me. It was going to be great. So when I actually gave my notice, I want to say I gave it to him in the end of August of 06. And when you're the key guy at a store and you give your notice, what usually happens?
Well, there's either a lot of begging you to stay or just you can leave now,
Yeah,
And
go get your
yeah,
go get your box.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I don't need 2 weeks notice. You can just get out now.
Well, we had already had the and we seriously we both had tears. I mean, it was that emotional for both of us. A week prior to me giving him a time, when I decided that I was going to commit and how soon it was going to happen, he looked at me and he said, dude, you cannot leave here until the end of the month, period. So I'm slated to take over a dealership in 30 days to be the new owner and take full control of it. And yet I'm committing to him for the next 30 days. So I worked for him. And then at the last day of the month, I took all of my stuff with me. I took off a half a day early, went and picked my daughter up from school. My wife went, and we went to the new dealership, and I took over there, and then I finished his month out and sent it to him over my computer at the new dealership. That I didn't get a break. I just went right into it. So when I went in 06, it was guns ablazing. I had no cool off time, no nothing. So then we started all the paperwork, and in my own defense, uh, I don't want to use I'm not an educated person as an excuse, but the attention deficit, sometimes I do get a little confused and a little lost with maybe how to put everything together in a nice, neat package. And sometimes I'll stray off a path. So
I get that. That's why I hired an operations director.
well,
I know myself well enough to know I've got plenty of ideas, plenty of energy, but that does not mean I can keep it all straight.
the problem with all those ideas and all the energies, you can't fucking do them all at once. And that was
Well,
my
but
problem.
my mind
Because,
doesn't know that, Jim. My mind wants to keep doing
yeah,
it, processing.
yeah.
What's the next idea? The next idea, you know?
It's like painting three colors at once with the same brush. Yeah, it looks great, and in theory, it probably would work, but I can't fucking figure it out.
No, no, I cannot figure it out. So you go right from you go right into the fire. I mean, from closing out a month as a salesman, manager, as running a dealership that way, to now owning a dealership in 2007. Then you have the pleasure of 08, 09, right?
Well,
Car business.
yes.
That was wow, what a great first couple of years for you. Did you ever think, what the fuck was I thinking?
No, because I'll be honest with you. When I took over daily operations in 06, hit the ground running, uh, you know, and this is no shit. I was sleeping in the showroom because it was an hour one way to drive home. And
Right,
I
because you
was
had
so
probably had to
in.
sell the lake house to get the place in the first place.
Well, no, I still had the lake house at that point, but I'm putting this all together, and I didn't want to waste that 2 hours being in the car when I could just sleep in the showroom.
Got it. Got it. All right. I can appreciate that little Elon Musk deal there.
No, I did. I mean, I slept in the showroom, and you know, as I was putting it all together, and putting up a kidney for sale and all that shit, I started seeing the life in the dealership, and part of what I was structuring was during the 2006 as becoming the in charge of the daily operations. They were so close to being really, really good, they didn't even know it. So in '06, I focused on finishing out the year with Bauer with a President's Award in '06. And they had a really inside line on a huge parts order with armored car company called O'Gara Hess. This was a $300,000 parts order. So my nose was to the grindstone on this parts order. And again, I'm hands on, fixed, and variable, and anything in between. It doesn't matter. I mean, I don't leave any stone unturned. So I'm just like hell bent on focusing on this huge parts order and putting everything together for Ford and Ford Credit and on and on and on. And none of it was easy. So going out 2006, we did accomplish the President's Award for 2006 going out. Going into 2007, we did not close on it until like March 17th is when it was of 2007. I got my official assignment dated March the 20th, 2007. That was my 45th birthday, and I forgot it was even my fucking birthday.
I mean, you're a busy man. I'm not saying I could, that surprises me, but I know as you and I record this, your birthday had just happened. So
Yesterday,
you're a busy man making it happen left, right, and center.
well, on my first day, in March. My first full day in business, I closed a $300,000 armored car parts order. So here I am, a brand new dealer, going online trying to get all my parts buckets and depots and all this stuff and make my initial parts order. I'm ordering like 5 complete engines, 6 transmissions, gas tank. I'm ordering shit that, like, the guys from the parts depot call. We know you're a new dealer, but are you fucking stupid or what? Because I'm trying to get a, because it was an all in or none. You had to have every part number, no excuses, no nothing, or you lost the whole contract. My very first day in business.
Wow.
So, yeah, I was assholes to elbows. And then going into '08 and things started going bad, I didn't even know that things were going bad, to be honest with you. I'd picked up Mercury. And again, another name I'll throw out that you may not know, but a lot of people will. The president of Mercury division had wrote me a letter a couple times, and this guy's still with them as well. He's a zone manager in Detroit. Very nice guy, great friend. Haven't seen him in a long time, but Mike Murphy. These guys had tagged me the Mercury man. I could sell any Ford buyer in the world a new Mercury, but I could never sell a Mercury guy a Ford. Just wouldn't happen. But anyway, I'm putting all these things together, and '08's coming along, and I keep hearing all that shit about, how bad things were. We were not doing the greatest, but we had all the write-offs, so we had a little bit of a cushion. Plus, I secured a $300,000 parts order on my first day that probably netted about $100,000. Because of being a new dealer, you get a parts credit, you get all these special returns and all this stuff. So, yeah, I mean, 2008 was ugly, but it wasn't nearly as ugly to me as it was most people. And I think mentally it helped that I was new and I was really charged. 2008 being my first full year in the business, that year in itself, I took my very first President's Award in my name. And I want to say we got the parts recognition. So I was never going to get a triple crown because we just didn't have the volume. We weren't that type of a dealer and didn't have the size and the metrics. But yeah, we took 2 of the 3 triple crown awards in 2008 and 2009. We were trucking, man. We were having a great time. 2009, and they started announcing all the stuff about Mercury in 10. 2010 was a great year for me because that's when I got divorced.
Right. And as you said, it's worth it to have that be the case. So 2010, you go in, you made it through the '08 time frame. You're new, you're young, you're having fun as an owner, you're making it happen. A lot happens between 2010 and 2020. What are the highlights for you? I don't need you to go into the 10 years between,
Yeah.
but I want to get to the cap of your story here. So what happens
Well,
between them? That's important to the backstory.
yeah, it is. And in 2010 and some of the personal things that happened in 2015. And I started trying to take a little time off. And in 2015, I had a bad accident and fell and broke my left arm totally backwards um, on my left side. I had to have it put back together, but I actually was only off work for a week the first time. After that, it came apart. I had to have a couple surgeries, and by 2016, I woke up one morning and I was in ICU in Indianapolis, just about dead from an infection. Uh, don't know how that happened, but man, it was horrible. 2017, you know, business had churned, and we'd sold out Mercury and things were really going on. And I think in 2010, I got another President's Award, and I was happy, I was fulfilled. And every once in a while, you kind of take your eye off the ball, and then I would get grounded again. I learned a lot, and I made a lot of mistakes. Going into 2017, I'd had some health issues. They weren't detrimental, and it wasn't because I was sick. They were all accident related. I do some really stupid shit, like rode to Baja and wrecked a motorcycle in the desert and broke my foot and broke my arm. Ended up with a bad infection on a PIC line, and I never missed a day's worth of work unless I had to. I mean, I really had to be almost dead. In 17, I'd had some issues with Ford Credit that were very minuscule. They'd come in and they'd bust your balls, and you get out your checkbook and everything goes on. Things started getting goofy in 17. Um, we had a change in people, and I had an incident with a Ford Credit person that came in. I had a balance sheet review, it's voluntary, and I always did them and got involved myself. And she tried to scam me from the start. Don't know what it was all about, but I just basically told her, get your shit done, get the fuck out of here. And it wasn't those exact words, but I wasn't a whole lot nicer. So she had falsified a balance sheet review, sent it in Ford Credit, and they asked me about it. I said, you know what? I ought to fucking sue you, fucking dicks. I don't like you anyway. Um, 2018, our BDM, I don't know what her thing was. She was just kind of shady and shanky and whatever. It's not that I didn't like her, but I made them. Those people had to come to me. If I was there and I was available, I made time for them, and you had to deal with the boss. There was none of this glad hand and shit. They come in and want to take you to lunch. I'm like, I don't eat lunch. Fucking, let's get on with it. So we do our thing, and um, I had always maybe not been the most professional person, but you know what? It always worked for them. It was not like I was doing it on the showroom floor. But going into 2019, something was really, really, really different and bad. I mean, bad. In January of 2019, my BDM shows up at the dealership. Um, she comes in and with this whole thing and about my inventory. Said, "Oh, you Ford Credit says you got to lower your inventory. You got 80 units, whatever. You got to go down to 16." And I'm a rural dealer. I got 80 units. And it's like, I'm paying you. I've never paid you late. Get the fuck out of my office and close the door when you leave. Well, she's like, "Oh no, we're going to start this series of RAL letters," and I'm like, we did that in 13, and I gave you money and you left. So, how much money do you want this time?
Yeah, because
Well,
it's never ending, right, Jim? As you know,
oh
it's either a
yeah,
facility or it's this or it's a nickel and dime. Like, I mean, I thought we were all doing this together, you know?
yeah, and
But in
that's what
2019, but in 2019, they're starting to think about, well, what does life look like, if we start to do less, and then that's only exacerbated by fucking COVID. So
exactly.
yeah.
But see, COVID's nowhere in the picture because this is January of 19. So,
That's January, that's a year away.
so come March of 19, I get a unit in my inventory that's got all this damage on it. I mean, I wouldn't sell this son of a bitch to my ex-wife, and I hate that bitch. So this thing's in my inventory forever. Nobody's doing anything about it. The roof is like literally smashed. It's total, and don't know what's going on with it. And I started getting all this weird shit, like computers getting hacked, losing all my emails. And I'm not a tech guy. I don't even care about the shit. But anyway, my BDM comes and goes and comes and goes, and sporadic as hell. That relationship was not going anywhere quick. But really, I wasn't that worried about it because I knew I would, you know, everything was good with me. And the undercapitalization, I'd went to my bank I think it's 270 or whatever. And I'm like, you know what? Here's what I'm going to do. I've got rental properties that I think I owe a few $1,000s on. I'm selling that shit. I'm going to make my life happier. I'm going to put 500,000 in. I'm going to sell the rental properties. And I'm selling all this shit. And I'm just going to make life easy from now on. So I'm putting all this stuff together, and she's about haphazardly paying attention to anything I say, anything I've done. You know, I mean, I bought a almost $2 million building in 15, and it never was put on my financial statement. This was fucking 4 years later. Still wasn't on there. And I've got all the email correspondence in 18 and 19 where she's still asking me if I bought it. Yeah, but anyway, we get into 19, and we'd been through 2 or 3 regional Ford credit managers, bankers, whatever they are. We didn't have one in the beginning of 19, and just her and all this stuff. So I really wasn't happy with Ford credit at all. It pissed me off so many times. So all of a sudden, this new Ford credit regional manager calls me and, hey, old buddy, I'm going to come out. I want to meet you. I've heard all these things and blah, blah, blah. Personally, I was putting in a new alignment system, you know, all fully integrated for all the new shit. And I really didn't want to dick with the guy. He comes out, and I walk him through my shop. He's looking down on my employees and treating everybody like shit, just like they always do. And probably spent 40 minutes with him, and then we go back into my semi-private office, as I called it, but it was more of a training room. We sit down and we're talking about all this different stuff, and this guy's just sitting there, just like we're talking, out of the fucking blue. This guy goes, I see what's going on here. Kind of nodding his head. He goes, you're double flooring your used cars, aren't you? I'm like, the fuck did you just say? I'm just like, I'm losing it. Well, this guy just goes blank and just starts looking like a moose's ass. Never said anything. He's just sitting there like he's stupid. And he's just kind of looking around, looking at. I'm like, do you have any idea what you just said to me? Do you know what that would do to my career?
Yeah,
And
I mean
as I
that's about as inflammatory as it gets. I mean, especially just sitting walking around with no proof. You haven't even. Where would you even get that from? It's just
he
it's crazy.
he pulled it out of his ass because his
Yeah.
mouth knew better. I didn't have Jim True Ford had no outside lenders. I didn't have a personal credit card. I had no car loans. He could have pulled a credit app on me. My beacon score was 820. You know, I'm sitting around with a couple $100,000 equity in my house, rentals that are paid for, $600,000 or $800,000 equity in my building, but they don't even know that I own. The next thing he knew, I'm escorting his fucking ass out of this dealership. I mean, I was pissed. We were going across the showroom floor, and I was not a happy man. And it showed.
How could you be? Someone just insulted your livelihood, what you've been dedicated your entire life to, and you're a dealer, and they're supposed to be your partner.
Exactly. That was my thing. So I was fuming mad for a couple days. I didn't know what to do, and I didn't know how bad I'd extenuated the hurt on our relationship, but I knew it wasn't going to be good. So we're pissing around about this undercapitalization. Now they start making it a big deal and all this stuff and wanting, you know, documents from the bank, all this. Hallelujah and praise the Lord. So the BDM comes back around. And at that point, I wasn't very happy with her. And when she came in, I said, hey, what the fuck is this thing about this double flooring of the cars? You know, something going on I don't know about is, you know, what the fuck is this? She goes, I don't know what you're talking about. I said, yeah, this fucking regional manager tells me he can see what's going on, double floor my cars. She said, he didn't say that. You're making that up. You're lying to me. I said, really? You fucking think I am? So whatever. So we went on about our business there a little bit, and I was livid. The next thing I know, this guy's called me, I don't know, a few weeks later, tells me we got off to a bad start and he wants to come out and see me again and all this stuff. And he shows up. I wasn't very warm. We go back into the conference room and sit down at the table. That was the first thing I asked him. I'm like, what the fuck? What was this double flooring car? You need to explain that to me. Of course, he's backing up, but he does admit that he said, what was it? The opportunity existed to double floor your cars. Well, no shit. I'm a car dealer.
Well, yeah, I mean, Jesus Christ. And that's math, dude. Okay. So, like, welcome to it. But again, Jim, here's the difference. That individual has never sold a car or run a dealership in his life. And that will always be the disconnect between dealers and OEMs is for the majority. And I know there are plenty of OEMs turned dealers. By the way, OEM turned dealers end up being some of the worst fucking operators I've ever met in my life. Okay.
But
In
this
my life.
guy, he couldn't sit on both fucking hands and do it right. But
Yeah,
anyway, what he didn't
exactly. So
realize,
not even a car guy. I mean,
yeah,
just some talking head.
an ego. Well,
Yeah.
what he didn't realize was I was recording the whole fucking conversation. I had been in my office and turned my phone upside down, put it on the desk. I was recording that whole conversation while he talked about all that shit.
Sweet.
So the
All right. So
BDM
that's
comes
what is
in.
that? Is that late 2019?
This is early 2019. So they're threatening me with all this stuff. So I go to my bank and I said, look, here's the deal. I didn't have an obligation. So I told my banker, I'm like, I don't know what happened, but this guy made this accusation. So let's look at everything, what we're going to do and how we're going to do it. And yeah, of course, he's concerned. There's a lot of stuff going on in the car business. I said, well, here, let's do this. Let's make my approval letter with a contingency that you, my banker, want to meet with Ford Credit so that we can navigate the road ahead. I don't want to ever have to deal with this shit again. So that's how he writes the approval. I have the approval. I presented to Ford Credit. They said, no, we're not going to talk to your bank. I'm like, really? No, I'm not giving you no fucking money. How's that? And honestly, that's how I kept it. So they just keep forging forward with all their RAL letters and all their little gizmos and gadgets. But this guy's calling me and telling me we can work through this on and on and on. And, it's my decision, blah, blah, blah. Never, ever did what he said that he was going to do. They were going to be there on Monday. They were going to do this, going to do that.
Just
I
shocking.
was just waiting. So they show up on August the 20th for a 30-day on-site monitoring agreement that we agreed on all this shit. But anyway, they come in and the three of them, we go back to my office. I had three people that were talking to me at the same time, just jabber, chitter, chitter, whatever. The BDM knew my store, knew my girls, knew everybody in the office. She went straight into my office, straight into the room where my safe was, and takes our daily deposit.
Come on,
She
Jim.
takes,
No way.
oh yeah, oh yeah. The girls in my office, Sean, I'm telling you, they will come on to your show. I'll give you their information. They'll tell you that's what happened. Go to my
A
safe, take
manufacturer rep walks into your safe and takes out your money.
absolutely.
Get the fuck out of here.
Swear.
That's insane.
So they take the money.
And this is day one of 30 days they're supposed to be here? I mean, what the fuck is
Yeah,
this?
this is business as usual. I have these letters. Sean, I have these emails and shit that you won't even fucking believe.
Wow.
This BDM that I'm talking about, I have her, you know what the AFIP certification is, right?
I've heard it. I'm not that
Okay.
well versed in it, but I've heard it.
So this is all your federal regulations and guidelines. Ford Credit's the person that comes in and trains my F&I person. Okay.
Yep.
This is the last paragraph in her email to me on the AFIP certification, because I was a stickler about keeping my people certified, including myself. It says all of us sales folks and market source reps are required to remain certified every 3 years. I went to Chicago in February for a training. The trainer fed us all the answers, so I aced the test in the high 90s. And I will say, I did not have to waste 20 hours to read that boring book. So if you don't sign up, I am more than happy to loan out my book for a refresher on all the state and federal laws required to comply with.
And this is someone who came in your office in your safe and took your money.
This is my fucking Ford business development manager from Ford Credit.
Wow.
This email, I have it in my hand. So they took the money, and then they tell my girls in the office that everything goes through them, all deposits, everything. So they're telling me business as usual, but telling them something else. Well, you know what's going to happen. I got car deals going. They take all the service money. They take every dime coming in is going back into Ford Credit in this back office, and they're holding it. And my people will tell you this voluntarily because they're pissed too. So you know what's going to happen. You're going to get, all of a sudden they call AIM, which, by the way, I was getting audited every week. I never had a late wholesale payment, nothing, ever.
Yeah. And they call AIM and shut off and shut off the delivery.
Oh no, they call AIM, the auditors, for an emergency audit of Jim True Ford.
While they're
And
taking your daily deposits.
they had the money. This was like Tuesday. They had the money. They were sitting on it. I didn't know this at all because I left and I'm calling everybody I can get my hands on in Detroit, getting no answers, trying to get through to Ford. So I came to my house and I'm trying to call all the 313 numbers that I can even grab out of my ass and try to get some help. Well, while this stuff's going on at the store, we deliver the 2019 Ford Escape. And the customer, very loyal customer, one of my salespeople that, by the way, is E2 in the Cincinnati area, every year had been selling cars in that dealership for 37 years. Guy's younger than me and a great guy. He's got people waiting on him 2 hours at a time, 2 or 3 people deep. And the week prior to that, he had a previous customer come in, want a specific Escape. He finds it at a local dealer, great trading partner, no issues, no nothing. We make the trade. And as I remember this, we actually bought this Escape. We went to the other dealer. I don't want to mention the name because I just don't. I think that's the
Yeah, it
safest
doesn't
way
matter.
to do this.
Doesn't matter.
So we pick this Escape up and we catch the fact that the MSO is the wrong one, off by 2 numbers on the VIN. We call right away because this Indiana State Trooper retired guy doing my driving. He'll jump in on this in a minute if his health's still good enough because he fucking hates Ford now. Indiana State Trooper. So he's doing the trade. Wrong title, wrong VIN, what have you. It comes back to us. This guy picks it up. We had called the dealer and said, look, send us wrong MSO. You've got our check. It's good dealer. He goes, we'll hold the check. We'll straighten MSO out. Go ahead and deliver the unit. So we did. Customer picks the unit up, goes on. Well, that very unit is the first one that gets caught in their emergency audit after they've just taken the money out of my safe and held everything.
Yeah, and it's got the wrong information, so it is
Yeah.
definitely a violation.
I have that audit in front of me, the paper, because I'm crazy about keeping that shit. And on this, it says proof of the audit was the MSO, the paperwork, and all this stuff. That's a lie, and it has to be. This particular unit, when the auditor came, she met with the Ford Credit regional manager. I wasn't there that morning, but I know the auditor. I've known her for 20 years. I came in, she was talking to him. She left and didn't speak to me, which was very unusual. So he's back there doing all of his doctoring, whatever it was he was fixing up. What he didn't know, because he was from Ford Credit from Greenville, out of Cincinnati, and they're a contact dealer. I was a select dealer, so all my people really were in Florida, but I dealt with both. We went to RDR this Escape. When we're trying to punch it in, it wouldn't accept it. It said that it had been reported sold by another dealer 4 months prior. So we started looking into it. There was a $4,000 rebate on the vehicle. No rebate was selected. The only thing selected as far as incentives was stair step, dash for cash. It was a false reported sale by the other dealer on his lot. He dealer traded to me unknowingly or knowingly. Ford Credit's in there doctoring up the paperwork on it. They don't know that this is going on in the front part of the dealership because I was involved in straightening out the RDR shit. So the people in Florida, it took them about 2 days to get this. They had to call the region and get them to reverse the sale. I want to say it's 3 or 4 months, Sean, that it had been reported sold. I go back to the Ford Credit people and I'm talking about this car and how goofy it is. He tells me I'm out of trust. Because it wasn't a problem to him. He knew I was out of trust. Well, it wasn't a problem until he found out that was the car that he was reporting out of trust. And now we had a big problem. This is a big dealer in Cincinnati. So he's filled out all this shit out of trust on this vehicle, very same vehicle I got in my hand, that I couldn't have traded for nor sold legally. The other dealer's caught. And this motherfucker goes and sweeps it under the rug. He goes and sees the other dealer. However, that dealer got my customer's name, I'll never know. The other dealer says that he got it out of the Ford system. The other dealer calls my customer, Sean. My customer didn't shop anywhere but my dealership, and he will vouch for that. He calls my customer and tells him he needs to bring that car to his dealership so that he can redeliver it to him. The customer says, "You're out of your fucking mind." He says, "Well, I'll just sue you because that car belongs to somebody else. It doesn't even belong to me." How does a retail buyer get involved in something like that?
I mean, only because the OEM is about as messy as it gets.
Well, no, he was. I mean, the Ford regional credit manager was like, he's in serious shit to this day because this is not over. Of course, they get me out of trust. They turn it over to their attorney in New York. That's when it got so messy. It's just a big pile of bolts and nuts. And then COVID comes because that's in August, August 20th, 2019. After a couple weeks of the shit show that honestly sent me into, well, about fucking killed me. I thought I was going to die. I thought I was going to have a heart attack and die on the spot. They go to my employees and tell them that they might as well quit because I can't make payroll, which I made payroll. But they're coming up to me and saying, "Hey, what about this investment? Everything's fine." And then they're telling, because my employees were coming up telling me this shit. They're trying to get these people to quit and leave me in a jam. My people wouldn't do it. They all finished cars. All the shop was getting done, and nobody wanted to leave. And they really couldn't believe it. So really, it's a David and Goliath story about really good people that stuck together as best that we could when they were doing something wrong. So I was told any new car that left my dealership and I sold, I'm on a 30-day business as usual agreement with them. If I sell a new car, I can't offer a rebate and I have to pay for it with certified funds up front before it could leave. That wasn't business as usual.
No, that's far from business as usual. And this is in the middle of COVID, Jim?
This was August the 20th. This is their first day of this 30-day takeover or monitoring
Oh, got
agreement.
it. So this is still 2019.
Well, they're in my dealership. We're doing business. This car gets caught up in the whole dealer trade episode. That same salesperson is delivering a new truck. The people were test driving it and all this stuff. The consumer, now this lady, I didn't know this at the time, but she had cancer right after that. Good customers, great people. Two Ford Credit women get into an argument on my showroom floor in front of a customer. I mean, this was a fucking shit show.
Yeah, I mean, it just couldn't be any worse.
You can't make this shit up. I'll tell you what, I'm sitting here right now, probably with, I don't know, 30 pounds of emails of shit that was going on. This entire escape deal, the whole email thread from the uh, people in Florida of where we were backing it out, the other dealer had sold it. Within a couple of days, the other dealer then calls me and offers me $4,500 to rescind the deal and get the people to come to his dealership and buy it from him. They were all scared then, and I'm like, nah, thank you. To make things worse, at that point, I figured the wheels are off of this motherfucker. The axle's broke. I'm going to give up every worldly possession that I have. I'm going to put it all out there on the line. I'm giving it all away to just bet that Ford Motor Company doesn't have a fucking clue what happened. And I don't believe they do.
And I think that's the most annoying part of it, Jim. I think to see a situation break down like this over such a long period of time with someone who's been in the business, yeah, sure, we have our rookie issues. We all do. It happens. But to be growing and running an establishment, going through all this, and then to just have it taken out from under you in the weirdest way possible, in like this sort of, forced corporate takeover, almost like
And it was.
almost like taking over the government, like a government coup almost. Do you know what I mean?
It was as bad as the January mess. I'm telling you, Sean.
I mean,
I have
it's insane. It's insane.
seen bar fights with more manners than this. The regional manager was totally unprofessional. The good news is he's not with Ford Credit anymore. He's now with Stellantis. So if you're with Stellantis, you're probably I'd keep my eye open. The other
I mean, if I was a
BDM,
Stellantis dealer, anyways, right now, I'd keep my eye open. To be frankly honest with you,
dude,
I
I'll
think they've
tell you
got
what.
a journey.
There's some opportunity there. I will tell
Sure.
you.
Well, there's some, but not as much as they think. That's for sure.
Yeah,
That's
but
for sure.
he's
So,
with.
Jim, you have David and Goliath. You're taken down by Goliath, right?
Yep.
You now, are you forced to sell your store, or do they take it from you?
They couldn't. I told them to get the fuck off my property. I owned the building and property.
Okay.
So I made one phone call, sold the building and property for a little over $1 million. They couldn't take it. COVID, because I was in the store from August, and see, I wouldn't leave. So but they wouldn't leave either. Now I know that doesn't make any sense. So
No, it
I
does. No,
paid,
it totally does because it's about, it's about a testament of wills, right? They think if
yeah,
they can get you to leave, they can take over, and you think if you can get them to leave, you can continue forward.
fuck it. No, I told them to get their shit and get the fuck off my property.
Right, because it is your property still.
Right.
It's,
It was
it's
my
still private
property.
property.
There was no bank involved or anything. I bought it from the previous dealer. But anyway, I had a ton of equity. So they tell me they're going to take me to court for replevin. I sell the building the next August, September. It might have been the 1st of October, but the fastest they can get into court was the December of 19. And COVID's starting to take over. I sell the building and I got to be out by December 31st. I'd already told them, get your shit and get off my property. It's sold. I had to pay a third party $94,000 to come and sit while they had all the keys and titles to everything that was there. The Ford Credit Regional Manager filed a false police report saying something about a gun and all. There's so much shit in this. Somebody ought to take this guy out behind the bar and just beat his ass.
At the end of the day, it's one of those things where they're empowered to be big, to be bad. So they take the dealership or you sell the land, they have to reposition the point, whatever, their headaches. So you get out of the car business right before COVID, Jim, then? Is that fair?
Right. So I'm waiting to go to court because that I told him, I said, my full-time job now is going to be to kick your fucking ass. To go to the whole COVID thing screwed things up so bad because the federal courts can't do a jury trial. We all demanded jury trials, and the one escape that was double sold, they wouldn't give me the title. I got all these customers coming to me for titles, and I'm happy. I delivered every single title from that dealership. I went to the Secretary of State in Indianapolis and filed a complaint with them within the first couple of weeks. Took my attorney with me on all the sales tax issues and all this shit. They noted it. They filed a report, told me I was a good boy, and patted me on the back. In 2021, the fucking attorney general sues me for a deceptive business violation, not delivering all these titles on time. If I wouldn't have delivered them, they wouldn't have got delivered. Ford Credit didn't do shit. Their attorneys, as we got into COVID into 20, their law firm in New York, on the very first day of the PPP, they got $5 million in payroll protection forgiveness on their first draw. $5 million. They weren't concerned about me. They didn't care about Ford. The law firms all took the money grab. They hired a firm out of Indianapolis. It was a smaller firm, but of course they got a couple million on PPP. But their attorney that was coming to court, his parents were good customers of mine. It's a fucking shit show.
Yeah, I mean the world is smaller. It's smaller than we give it credit for. Jim, you have been more than gracious with your time. How does this story end for you?
And this is kind of the union part of me. I think that there's in all my attempts previously, and I still know a lot of people at Ford, and there's a lot of great people there. Don't get me wrong. I'm not just lopsided like that. I believe that should have never have been a situation like this to begin with. It didn't need to go to court. They didn't want me there. Then they should have just been a real man, like I told this idiot to do. Just be a real man and own it. If this is what we got to do, let's get it done.
Yeah, let's if just tell me your path forward and let's go. Let's be done.
They have wasted time. I had probably 26 or 7 employees. Some of these people were 40 years, Sean. I had a master certified technician, never had a job anyplace else in his life. Another salesperson, almost 40 years. This guy sold 25, 30 cars a month. My wash boy had been there 17 years.
And that's the
But
part
you,
that really bothers you, right? You'll
yeah,
recover as a human, but it's the people in the wake of this that get trashed, that don't have the same ability and opportunity to move forward with things. And I think
absolutely.
that's what sucks.
And that's actually about the money thing. I sold my house to my girlfriend, which we've been together 10 years. She had a financial stake in it. She's a 30-year school teacher, which, by the way, the Ford Credit regional manager, my employees will tell you this because they brought it to us. They notated my girlfriend as being known as, quote unquote, the dark girl. I should have broke his fucking nose over that one. And I'm talking about a racial dark.
Yeah. No, I definitely got the connotation there for
Asshole.
sure. And that again, that's just proving the lack of business. Well, Jim, let's wrap this up. Last thought from you, man. What do you want to do? What is Jim True going to do moving forward? What's he want to be? How's he want to be? I know he's not leaving the car business, so what's he going to do?
You know, if I leave the car business, I believe that I got to do something like give back. And there are some things going on in the world today, and you keep hearing about all the people doing these super duper lawsuits and stuff. I've got the experience, know how, and God knows uh, they left me with 10,000 pounds of documents. So, in all the service and warranty stuff, I might start advising the courts, and working on some of these roof issues and some of the, you know, I don't know, there might be some liability and then some way of making some money, because I've not made a dime since
Since you left.
well, since August of 2019. I got a little bit of unemployment, and I know I gave out over $100,000 of my own money to customers and vendors, and just by opening the door.
Well,
So
Jim,
I,
your story is one that is just unbelievable. I feel like, I mean, you and I have been talking for 2 hours, and I don't even feel like we've necessarily gotten into all of it, which is insane to think about. But I hope you stick in the car business, man. The business needs people like you. It loves the drive of people like you, and we just need to find you a better OEM.
you know what, and I got to tell you, we got a Honda plant here close, and I've still probably got, I would say, in the neighborhood of 500 or 600 customer contacts that I mean, some of them are like fleets of 20 and shit. So
Just get into private sales, bud. I mean, it's a big thing. Just be a broker. It's all the rage right now. Plus, you can use you can use technology. I know you're not a huge fan of it, but you can use technology and make yourself a nice little living. So let me know if I can ever be of help there.
I appreciate it. You've been more than a help, and your time's important to me. And like I said, I feel pretty humbled that we were able to spend this time together, and
Well, Jim, I
hopefully
appreciate you
someday
telling
we'll
us the
we'll meet
story.
in person.
I think people will get a lot from it. I think people will see the other side of what it is, what it's like to be a car dealer. So thanks again, man, for spending the time with us. I really do appreciate it. And for everyone watching, Jim True is all over LinkedIn. You can find him, you can talk to him, you can hear his story. If you want to see his documents, he's more than happy to show them to you. So this is not a fictitious story. This is a real story of a man and his dealership and the people who work for him being brought down by silly political nonsense. So, Jim, man, I really appreciate the time, bud. Thanks a lot.
All right, thanks, Sean.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great week. We'll see you next week on the show. Thanks.